This now, South Africans are under intense financial pressure, and experts are saying we should expect to be squeezed even further by rising prices. High inflation and interest rates are likely to weigh on consumers, with notable increases already in the prices of basic food items, petrol as well as electricity. So just how much do we need to survive? Well, eNCA reporters are out and about looking into the cost of living. Monique Mortlock joins us now from Cape Town. Monique, what are citizens saying about these soaring prices of basic goods?
Well, I'm in a home here in Strand, in what one might call a middle-income community, Victoria Park. When you're driving through the just down the streets, you'll see beautiful homes, well-kept homes. But when you're speaking to residents who live in these homes, you'll find that even those who it may seem are doing okay, are surviving, that they are still having to find creative ways or new ways of just making it through the month. And I'm in the home of Terzil Rasmus. Thank you very much, Terzil. I've got her in the middle of baking bread. Terzil is going to put it in the oven now. Let's see if it's right. Now, Terzil, you were explaining that this is just one of the measures. Baking bread has just become one of the measures in which you've saved money, had to save money.
Yes, with the rising cost of, food, my husband and I have decided, had looked at how are we going to cut costs regarding what we eat, especially just, with the increase of petrol and increase in basically everything, And we've looked at ways, maybe cutting out meat even, becoming vegetarian, I'm baking bread, I'm baking more soup, and stretching meals, making bigger pots of stew that keeps through the week, And, and it's tough. It's tough, Like you said, we're a middle-class income home, but after debits, we don't have disposable income.
And oops, I just banged into one of our pots here. And tell me about the income situation. Many South Africans complaining about the fact that my salary is still the same, yet I'm paying more, I'm giving out more, my expenses are increasing. Are you finding it's the same for you?
Yes, definitely. We are a household of income that generates about 40,000 a month. And, every year we'll get an email from, the insurance or these people saying, we're just going to increase it by 20 Rand, 50 Rand, whatever the case may be. But it all adds up. And so we find that we still have the same income, but the expenses are becoming more. And after that first week debits going off, we find that our disposable income is less. And we end up having to, middle of the month, maybe even the week before, having to use our credit cards to just, spend on buying the basics again that we ran out, like sugar, milk, eggs. And now, instead of buying bread, like, I'm making bread, So that's the reality. Yeah.
And finally, tell me what your budget looks like. What are some of the things you've had to cut down on? What is the priority?
Well, the priority right now is, because I have a sick mom and she has a caregiver, so the first thing I do is I pay her and I'll get my mom's toiletries. But after debits, basically, to be honest, we couldn't cut our budget down. We're just buying less. So even if we want to cut out, it still feels like we're not gaining, Because just when we cut meat out, I heard that next month wheat is going to increase again. So it's like, okay, so do we then not buy noodles and pasta and, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of thing that we're dealing with again.
And luxuries like going out, any of that?
We are not going out. We are staying at home every weekend. We can't go to the movies. Yes, my husband likes his luxuries like chips and things like that, but even he's finding it difficult. I am, instead of buying biscuits, I'll maybe bake, and that's the kind of thing I'm looking at. I'm even considering, because my husband likes sweets, should I then rather make Turkish delight, and instead of him buying it. And that's the reality that we are finding ourselves in. And looking at alternatives, cheap alternatives. What is cheaper? Should we go to the Strand cash and carry to buy, luxuries. But, I mean, yeah.
Thank you very much, Terzel, for speaking to us. That was Terzel Erasmus speaking to us here from her home in Strand. And as you can see behind me, quite a busy kitchen. We got her in the middle of baking bread. And I'm really hoping that, because I'm smelling it already, and I'm really hoping that that bread is finished by the time we leave, but probably won't be. And Terzel highlighting a fact that many South Africans are feeling, that pinch that they are feeling, that a week before payday, maybe 2 weeks before payday, the need to dip into a credit card or savings, things that South Africans like Terzel wouldn't have had to consider before the pandemic.
No, Monique, these are honestly difficult times. I mean, home-baked bread used to be a treat for many. It wasn't necessarily a necessity, because we come from a time when bread was less than 5 rand.
Yep, and we heard from one of the residents we spoke to this morning in Philippi. He was telling us that because they are unemployed, they are 13 people living in a 2-bedroom house. And he was saying that before, bread was 9 rand. They could just afford it. Now it's 13 rand. Sometimes they have to, they are lucky enough that the spaza shop or the house shop close to them sells slices. So they would sometimes buy 2, 3, 4 slices of bread just to ensure that his 2 children who are school-going age, just to ensure that they have bread for 1 slice for breakfast and maybe 1 slice for lunch. And he was saying it's been so difficult. They literally living day by day. And we even went with him to the spaza shop, and he showed us how he buys little made up packets of sugar, of coffee, and 2 wheat picks to ensure that his 2 babies, the 2 youngest children, are able to eat cereal. So it's just, he was telling us that just the odd jobs that he does get to do and the child grants that he gets just isn't enough.
It's very difficult. We seriously need an intervention. Monique, thank you very much for that update. That was reporter Monique Mortlock out in Cape Town. Now,